I don't create any content on TikTok, so that's
Hmm.
probably why I don't have a lot of followers. And you're so popular, AJ.
Oh,
You've got amazing followers, and I met AJ just recently at OAC, and it was really fun to meet people in person. Seeing the folks from TikTok and like seeing them in person was like kind of surreal. I don't know if you kind of felt the same.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It was awesome. It was so great. So great. So tell us about your story or tell us what you're on, I guess. And what, yeah.
Sure. I started in August 2024 on
Hmm.
trizepatide. I was somebody who struggled with obesity from pretty much like puberty is when I noticed the weight gain as a child. Um, there was some concerns, but there were family members that would say things, and so I was aware of it as a child that um, my body was different than my cousins and so forth. So
Hmm.
uh, there was a concern there. And then, really struggled in high school. I was, very happy to see the teens that thrive at OAC, where they're just like we were talking about, like we wish we would have had this option to get on a GLP-1 in our teen years or, to basically get intervention earlier. So
Yeah,
that wasn't an
Poppy.
option
Yeah,
back
Poppy,
in
really,
the, in,
yeah,
yeah,
really
go ahead.
quickly though, if you don't mind, can you explain the Thrive program with OAC and what you saw there so that people know what we're talking about?
Sure, sure. So Thrive is a special program for youth to come together and get guidance in their families, where the childhood obesity is being addressed, and to give support and community for the youth and their family. So we got to see they were at the conference, but they kind of did their own thing during the day,
Hmm.
and then in the evenings, they joined us and they had some great costumes. I don't know if you
Oh,
were paying attention to, there was a dance in the evening and they really had a lot of fun with that. And it was just really encouraging. One of the sessions that I had gone to, there was a young lady who was 17 and she reminded me so much of myself as a teenager. And it was a table of what, maybe 8 or 10 of us. It was the local advocacy session, and I was just like, thank you for being brave and showing up. Like, just being
yeah.
here is a huge step. And I want to encourage you that, this is, about health, and you're being aware of this at a young age is amazing. And I just want to thank you for being here. And I think her mom, who was sitting right next to her, her mom had experienced obesity since a child as well.
Hmm.
And that was their first conference. So it was very encouraging to
Oh,
see those families show up, and
yeah.
that they really, not, of course, every parent loves their child, but to really say, okay, they're taking this to the next level to really support,
Yeah.
um, because it is a lot when you're a teen and society does not, um, doesn't embrace, a lot of us when we're in bigger bodies, right? So a
Yeah.
teen struggling with that, it was just very encouraging.
Yeah, it was so
Um,
nice to be able to see like how comfortable they were because as a young person you feel kind of embarrassed like do I want to go to this thing that's about obesity and like but they've met these kids and every year they come together and it's like a big party for them and they feel good and they speak you guys. We have this area where there's 400 people there and we all can kind of speak if we want. I was one of them. But these kids got up there with the microphone and cried and spoke and cheerleaded, like just was so I mean it was just so amazing to see. It was so healing for them. So
yes,
I
and
encourage
it was
everybody.
healing for us too, because here we're
Oh
witnessing the next generation. It was very healing in that way.
yeah, I can't imagine having something like this as a teen. So they're going to thrive, they're going to be amazing. So Poppy, tell me this, what was your highest weight? How much have you lost so far on the tours or whatever you're on?
Yeah. So, um, well, maybe just back up just a little bit, because
Hmm.
my story is a little, maybe just slightly different, because I was somebody who did not diet. I had some family members that were very much into diet culture. I didn't like seeing that and witnessing that. It was just seemed
Yeah.
like a miserable experience. So I never dieted, but I was in my early 40s. I was at a theme park, literally across the street from where we were at OAC, the conference in Orlando.
Yeah.
And It was 103 heat index that day. I was 254 pounds, and I, made it till about noon. And then I was at a show and passed out twice from heat exhaustion.
Mm.
And it was very scary. Luckily, my daughter didn't witness it. But I was like, oh my goodness. I was, sick for days afterwards. And I knew some health things were happening, but I had heard that my insurance was not covering, obesity, treatments
Mm-hmm.
other than if you went through this process to get bariatric surgery. And that to me was a little intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a family member who went through that, and they did well, but I was like, I don't know if I want to take that drastic of a
Sure.
step to do like, gastric bypass or something. So I was kind of, hemming and hawing over it. My sister is a family medicine physician who prescribed the GLP-1s, and we had a conversation following that medical incident. And she just said, "Hey, I just want to encourage you. It's okay if you need help. It's a tool. I prescribe it for my patients. It's a really great option, and just think about it. And then, you'll have to check, to see if your insurance will cover it. Sometimes it won't, and you'll have to pay out of pocket, but just keep that in mind." So I had that in the back of my head. Fast forward to about a year later, I had my annual checkup, and that's when the blood work came back. And they were like, "Hey, your blood pressure continues to go up." I was
Mm-hmm.
already on medication for that. They were looking at my cholesterol, said that, "Hey, that's really high. Let's think about putting you on a statin."
Mm-hmm.
And, and that's when I was like, you know, uh, I I know there's these things that came out on the market, and they were like, "Oh yeah." And I said, "Well, I'm a little concerned just because I don't know if my insurance covers it."
Mm-hmm.
And my health insurance is actually through TRICARE, which is my husband is retired military. So if there's any military spouses or retirees out there,
Mm-hmm.
please check your TRICARE. Usually it's TRICARE Prime is the name of it. That has the some options on the formulary. And so my provider was like, "Oh, I have patients on TRICARE. I've done prior authorizations, and it's been fine. I've been getting them approved. So let's get you started." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so literally she filled out the prior authorization, and within 24 hours it was approved. And I just had to wait for the medication to get filled because there were some shortages with Zepbound at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I started literally on Tuesday. It'll be my 2-year anniversary. And again, my highest
Congratulations.
weight, yeah. So my highest weight was 254. And I was like, this is like the first time I'd really taken a serious like look at, doing something. And it was for my 75% of my reason for doing it was the health, because there was these things happening. It was scary. And then 25% was, hey, there are some aesthetics that go along with it. That's the perk, right?
Right.
To look better. So, and let's just be honest, we're women, right? And
Right.
society does put a lot of pressure on us for looks. So I totally get it. And so I started the process just, taking the shot to basically just see how my body would react. To give it about 2 weeks. And then my husband gave me, because he actually had started on a GLP-1 2 months prior
Mm-hmm.
with the VA. So his healthcare was through the VA. So if you're a VA patient, um, please look into that. That could be an option for you. It is in the formulary now. They have both semaglutide and tirzepatide on their formulary. So FYI.
Love it.
Um, and the co-pays for me was not bad either. So that's
Mm-hmm.
a blessing. And that's one of the things I shared my story with a few people in person at OAC, saying I kind of feel like I'm almost like survivor's guilt, because I had a very pretty easy access. I have a low copay. The process was not, a horrible experience for me just to get started. Like, and I, was hearing other people's stories that, they were really struggling just to get coverage, or their insurance dropped them,
Right.
um, all sorts of things. So I just, for this whole process, I felt, I guess the word is gratitude, feeling blessed that things turned out the way that they did. So started in August 2024, gave it some time, noticed some slight side effects, but I never had anything like serious.
Mm-hmm.
Had a little bit where you have like sensitive skin sometimes. So, some
Yep.
parts of your body is really sensitive.
Allodynia.
Um, yeah, and so that was one that kind of comes and goes. It's kind of random.
Mm-hmm.
But after the first couple of months, I'm like, okay, the weight is, coming off. And I started using the app, Lose It. My husband had gotten it and he went ahead and got like one of the, where it's like a lifetime, whatever, membership.
Yeah.
So we were both using, and it was, because I didn't have like scale trauma or anything, but I was not a fan of getting on the scale when I was bigger.
Right.
But my husband and I had a conversation. He's basically like, weigh yourself every day. Don't see it as like you panic every time you see that number, no matter what it is. See it as a data point, put
Yes.
it in your app, and just you need to step back, let the data build. And then when you step back and look at it,
Yeah.
you'll see that there is a downward trend. You're going to have
Yes,
days where sometimes
absolutely.
you go
Yeah.
up a little bit. You might have, had something really salty. You're retaining
Yeah.
water. With women, our cycles can
Yeah.
affect.
And flow
um,
stays around way too long.
yes. So I was just basically weighing myself every day, and just putting that in the app. And then I started doing, tracking, trying to find a good, what you were calling a healthy deficit,
Hmm.
um, protein intake, hydration, all the things both my sister and my provider mimic each other. Like they obviously knew what they were talking about, giving
Yeah.
good guidance and saying, hey, movement, make sure you also get some fiber so you can stave off the constipation. And I followed that, and I have had very little digestive issues other than um, getting kind of like the sulfur burps I've been on like 5 cruises in the last 2 years. And so sometimes having like any type of like wine or,
Acidic,
like,
right?
yeah, like rich food, like, if I
Yeah.
have like a steak and dinner rolls and, a very rich dinner,
Hmm.
that's when I kind of notice. And that's because of the gastric emptying is slowing down a bit. So your body, my sister was actually on one of the cruises when I got the sulfur burps, and she's like, well, you just got to take some Tums and wait it out. She's like, what's happening is that the food is not digesting fast enough.
Yeah.
And so what's happening is that food is basically sitting there and is
Yeah.
technically fermenting
Fermenting.
in your
Yeah.
stomach. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's like, it'll pass, but just, things like broccoli, red meats,
Yeah.
can cause, certain foods can trigger that. So I just learned to manage it. It wasn't that big of a deal. Um, Alcohol intake, I wasn't a big drinker anyway, but occasional cocktail or two. I just now have to prep ahead of time and take like a Pepsid AC or something just to help that, the extra acid and things in your stomach.
Yeah.
So after about the first year, and I had some family come visit me in Florida, and they noticed, because they had never seen me in a, they've just seen me gain weight throughout the years, right? Never seen me lose weight. So they were just shocked. And so I was like, okay, obviously there's a big physical change happening. Um, and I went on a cruise. This was probably, I think this was in October of this last year. And my passport was going to expire in a couple months. But I didn't think anything of it. We go on the
Yeah.
cruise, have a great time. Coming out to the customs area, and they do the supposed to be like the face recognition, like kind of like
Hmm.
machine,
Yep.
and it kept airing out. And I was like, oh my goodness, at this point, I'd probably lost about 90, maybe 100 pounds at that point.
Hmm.
So there was a pretty drastic change. And they said, ma'am, you need to step aside. You need to see a customs officer. They need to do a manual check. And I was like, oh, so I was like, I guess it's time to go ahead and renew that passport. So, and I don't know, did I share the picture with you, AJ, at
I
OAC?
don't think so, but
Okay.
I can imagine. I mean, the same with me. I just had my passport redone, and 344 pounds to now. I mean, it was like such a crazy difference. It's not even funny. So I can only imagine.
Yeah. So I was like, so I had my passport from literally 10 years prior when I was like 33.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh my word. Like my whole face shape had completely changed. It was so crazy. And one of the gals we met at OAC, she had worked for Alaska Airlines. She's actually from Alaska. So we grew up together. I'm from Alaska, by the way.
Yeah.
For those that don't know. But we were talking about life in Alaska, and then we got in the conversation about the changes and everything. And she was like, "Oh, I used to knew a bunch of people in security, and then I worked for security." She's like, "Those facial recognition things, when you lose a considerable amount of weight, it can slightly change some of the how the machine calibrates, like
Right.
between the space between your eyes and your nose and all these things." And she's like, your nose even looks different from, I showed her the picture. She's like, yeah, that's why. I was like, okay. So I knew that there was this, very drastic change that had happened. And so I went on cruises, had holidays where I still enjoyed foods. I didn't restrict foods.
Mm-hmm.
I just kept, portions. I realized, hey, the portion control is kind of built in using this medication. I think it was just kind of a shock. I think within the first month, I think I was on it, where we went out to a restaurant. Normally, I would eat like a whole Philly cheesesteak and a good portion of my fries.
Yeah.
Well, I ate maybe half of it and maybe like 4 or 5 fries. And I was full. I was like, oh.
I know.
So the other thing for some, I wasn't, when I was in a larger body, I was not somebody who was a binge eater, but I was a snacker. So it was, that stopped with the use of tirzepatide. It definitely, like, I ate a meal, felt satisfied, and waited for the next meal, 4 hours later, and had my, meal, my, protein. My goal is about 100 grams of protein a day, about 90 ounces of water. I began, I think about after I lost about the first 40 pounds, I started doing daily walks, and I worked my endurance up in here in Florida. It gets pretty hot.
Mm,
So I often have to do my walks either in the mornings or late, in the evenings, to kind of help with because it does get really hot.
yeah.
So adding that movement in helped. I worked up to doing about 3 miles, a day. I entered maintenance after 125 pounds lost. That was in April. And then the next month, my dad passed away
Mm,
unexpectedly. So I was really, I didn't know what to expect with maintenance. I had heard that when you have a lot of stressful things and events in your life,
yeah.
that cortisol levels, I think you talked about that earlier,
Mm-hmm.
that can really impact how your body is, your metabolic system is doing. And because of the health conditions I had along with the obesity, I was diagnosed with metabolic dysfunction. So it's a syndrome that does cause, the high blood pressure and other things. So when you have those things on top of it, there's a health concern there. And there was kind of that panic where I think we all have had this at one point or another, where there's like this feeling of like, I don't want to fail.
Yeah.
I don't want the weight to come back. So I really had to keep myself in check. And when I noticed, I had to go up to Alaska to travel, I just had to prepare. I had to, like, we had some family that went to Costco and got me like fiber gummies and protein shakes. And I was like, I have to keep on track. Maintenance is not just like you get there and then it's a big party and you don't have to do all the things you,
It's
like you
continuous.
had talked about in many of your lives. It's a continuation of what you've learned.
Mm-hmm.
And I still enjoy foods. I'm a foodie still,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a mindset. But when this, sudden death in my family came about, there was that concern, like, okay, that's definitely, I need to really pay attention to what's changing. And one of the things that changed was my sleep.
Mm.
I was not sleeping well. And I was like, this could become a problem. If you don't get good sleep, your cortisol levels are, everything
Oh,
gets out of whack.
sleep is one of the
And
most important things for our health and weight.
yeah,
Absolutely. So what did you do?
yeah,
I don't want to derail what you were going to say, but
yeah.
talk about what you did to help that.
Yeah, so I struggled for a little bit, of course, being in Alaska during the summertime,
Mm-hmm.
even with trying to put, covers on the windows, and with the
Yeah.
4 hour time difference, my sleep was all off. So I was like, I'm just going to deal with this. I'm here for 10 days. I'll deal with it. As soon as I got back, I immediately saw my provider and said, I'm struggling with my sleep. They got me a couple of medications to help me kind of get back on track. And of course, perimenopause, as most women who are going through it know, you don't get the greatest sleep anyway.
Right.
Your hormones are all over the place. So that's when I was like, okay, I will follow this protocol for a while to get myself back on track. And that seems to be helping. And it's now almost August, and I now just weigh myself. When I started maintenance, I just went to like weighing myself once a week. And that's just to just keep tabs on where I am. And I've been holding steady between like 128 and 131 is kind of the range. So that was kind of my experience. And there were a lot of what Dr. Robin Pashby talked about at OAC, this healing journey, because we all have experienced, being in these larger bodies, and like
Mhm.
society has not been so kind to people who, have that outward the symptoms are shown on the outside, right? Obesity is a disease, and we have a more the physical traits, right? So
Yep.
people see what they see. And in the when I went on this journey, the other thing that I was not expecting was the emotional journey and kind of the psychological changes that you just see in yourself, the emotions that you get. And I did connect with the therapist and have been getting some help with that because there is a lot of like body dysmorphia and different things that happen. Just even looking at pictures of yourself when you were bigger and processing all those things and walking into a store and realizing now I can go to the mall. I can literally take, clothes off the rack and take it home. I don't have to go online and order it, or
Yeah.
I just feel accepted by the store workers that I belong there. Because there have been stores that I went in that I knew I was not going to fit
Right.
anything. I might have been with a friend or whatever, and you saw the looks on the sales associates' faces, like, "What are you doing here?"
They're like, oh, here's an accessory. I could always,
Yeah.
that's the thing I
Oh,
always
here's
joked
some
about.
shoes.
I
Here's
can
a
always fit
bracelet.
into the accessories.
Correct.
But
So to go from a size jeans, I was anywhere depending on the brand, between a size 22 and 24. I'm not super tall either. I'm like 5'4".
mhm.
So being 254 pounds at 5'4", this clothing size, yeah, I was at jeans, 22, 24, dress sizes about, shirt sizes about, a 2X. Um, and I went all the way through this process, slowly realizing I can't afford to like constantly be replacing clothes. So I turned to a local buy nothing group on Facebook. So I probably gave away like 11 bags of clothes to other people
Right.
from my larger sizes. And then I got clothes from other people. I said, "Hey, I'm on a weight loss journey. If you have any clothes in this, whatever the size was." And so I got some free clothes from people. And then I supplemented with going to the thrift store.
Mhm.
That was the cheapest place to buy jeans that I knew I'd only been wearing for a couple of months, right?
Right.
So that was a process to clean out my closet over time. And yeah, it was definitely like a kind of a surreal thing because you'd go to do your laundry and then you're looking at this pair of jeans. You're like, there's no way.
Wow.
There's no way.
Especially when
And
they
then you
come
put
out
them
of the
on, you're like, they
dryer.
fit.
They come out of the
Yes.
dryer and like, how everything shrinks. And before we were like, God, please don't shrink. You know what I mean by shrinking, not crazy, but and
Yes.
then you pull it out and you're like, this is gonna fit over my butt. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
it does. So I
You're like,
really,
wow.
it still is bizarre to me, right? And I'm not like a little person, but it still is so bizarre that like my body fits in these jeans that I'm like, I would never be able to get on my big toe, you know?
So my squeaky life she said, I dream of doing just a little tuck of a shirt. And that's so like,
Can we
I
talk
connect
about
with that
that?
so much. Yes.
There was
So
no way I'm gonna tuck anything.
yes. Before it was that's going to show whatever pudge I have in my roll
Well,
or
yeah.
whatever.
And
No
then
way am I
because
going
we
to do
didn't
that.
tuck, we were frumpy, like frumpy butt, we were
Yeah, it
like,
looked kind of like you were like, you were trying to hide to mask. Um, there was, a shopping experience I had as a child where I was told I don't know if you remember in the 90s, where the grunge look was kind of a thing. So a lot of the
that was
shirts
me.
had
Are you kidding?
so stripes on shirts that were horizontal. I was told
Like
you're not allowed to
these?
wear those. Yes, I was not
It's
allowed to
so
wear
funny.
those
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
because horizontal stripes made you look whiter. You need to
Yeah.
wear vertical stripes. And
Yeah.
so that was forever like ingrained in my mind. And now I'm like, I don't give an F. I'm going to wear a shirt with horizontal stripes
That's what I
because,
thought when I put this on. I was like, you know what? Horizontal. Let's go for it.
let's
Totally.
go. So yeah, tucking in the shirt is something new. It is freeing in a way to be like, I look more put together. I feel like
Yes.
you feel like you can, yeah. So, and even at OAC, they had two events. The first event we went to was kind of like it was called Splash into, what was the theme? It's called Splash into something. But it's kind of like a under the sea, type, beach theme. And I was like, you know what? I want to be a mermaid. So I started looking at all these costumes, and I, the thought came, crossed my mind. can I could I actually be a
Could
mermaid
you do
that
it?
but I was like, I'm not quite ready to like, I'm like not ready to show my belly. I have a lot of loose skin. That is, so my confidence with, so I found a mermaid costume that still, it was more like a dress, so, but it was
You
strapless. I had
guys,
to add straps to it,
I
but
was looking at my pictures to see if I had you, and
mhm.
I cannot find you. And I know I took pictures with you. Her mermaid costume, guys, was fire. Is that what the kids say? Like, talk about sexy. It's sexy, sexy. Poppy. So
But
talk more about that.
it
And
was
I
like a
know you had
freedom. It's like a
freedom.
freedom to pick out what you like, not what's just
Now, let me
available.
just tell you guys, it had two shells for the bazumbas. Okay.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so fashion, I think we had a little conversation about fashion
Mm-hmm.
ourselves at OAC, but it's like you get to pick out what you actually like in because it's made in your size. You feel this confidence that you didn't have before, but you're just like, man, I can pick out what I actually want to wear, not just what's available because, you know, and what we had to pick from, and it annoys me to no end at the fashion industry. It's like, oh, I guess all women in larger bodies love these ugly floral prints, or we want to make you look like you're wearing a tent. Like,
Right, right.
um, so that was really frustrating to, you know, have that limitation in the past. And now it's like I have more opportunity to express myself with fashion. And so that's something that's kind of exciting and a perk.
I love it.
Yes, this is really about the health, but I feel like this is a perk that we get. And I still want to be an advocate, for people to, um, you know, take this, at whatever pace they can take it. There's no rush. And I felt like when I started my journey, there was like, I wanted to get to that end goal quickly, right?
Yeah.
And my husband had to remind me, you didn't put this weight on overnight. You're not going to lose it overnight. Just take it day by day. This is a whole process. There's no rush to this. And um, to see if it is, even though it seems like it's taking a long time, the time's going to pass anyway, right? So, enjoy the process. Don't feel this pressure to be, because we can do this in the social media space where we see people, the before and afters,
Hmm.
and what we see is a blip of time. But that person, this took
Yeah.
me 2 years to go through this process, right?
Right.
So if you're somebody who's new and you're seeing, oh, I just saw somebody in a Reddit forum saying they lost 20 pounds in the first week.
Oof.
Um, that what we see online,
Mhm.
people are more likely to share if they were a super responder than they are if they're slow responders. And what that means is some people don't know that the average weight loss, and this is coming from several medical professionals, including my sister, that the average healthy weight loss that they like to see on a provider level is zero point 0.5 to 2 pounds a week.
Mhm.
And the reason they say that is because losing at a much faster pace, you have an increased risk for um, not only like increased side effects, but because your body is dropping the weight so fast, it is very stressful on your body. And I think you talked about, losing hair and things like that.
Mhm.
Because just like having a baby or going through cancer treatment, things like that can be very stressful on your body. The same thing is with weight loss, just in general, and losing weight in any manner, whether you do quote unquote traditional, which is the dreaded eat less, move more, to bariatric surgery, to using these medication tools. Any way that you lose weight is a stress on your body. I was blessed that I did not lose hair. I did not have that side effect. And then I think it may be genetic as well. I think there's a genetic component,
Yeah.
because when I had my daughter, I had heard from other moms that, hey, when you're postpartum, you lose a bunch of hair, and then that didn't happen to me when I had her. So I was like, maybe I'm just a lucky one where that type of stress does not, cause hair loss. And so I was one of the people that did not experience that.
Right.
But that is a concern for people. And if that's the case, please see your medical provider, talk to them about it. Um, and sometimes it's something that's just temporary. For some people, they're seeing large quantities of hair just being lost. That's when you need, like I think you mentioned it maybe yesterday, or maybe even this morning, about getting blood work done because you may have some nutritional deficiencies there that could be causing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I like coming on here and talking because people get scared and they think it's the medication, this and that. But in reality, it's just what we're doing or not doing to fuel our bodies correctly, right? So it's so important to educate that. So
Correct.
quickly though, like with your
hmm
costume, you had mentioned to me what you're going to do with it. You thought, well, this is just a costume for this party. Now what are you going to do with it?
I'm going to wear it on Halloween. So
Hey,
in Florida, it can be very hot here. So you can have a very hot Halloween, literally, or it can be like in the 70s, which is comfortable. But
Mhm.
we've had Halloweens where it's like 88 degrees and you're sweating. But the way that our Halloween in our neighborhood works is you typically set out your trick or treating area at the end of your driveway, and we have kids that come from all over the county, probably. I don't know. It seems like that. I do live in a gated community, so they open up the gates to a point to allow kids from the neighborhoods to surrounding neighborhoods to come. And last year we passed out bags. I have a kind of like an industrial popcorn machine. I have
Love
weird things
it.
at my house, but we
No,
probably
a
passed
lot
out
of my
like
friends do too. I go over there all the time. I'm like, excuse me, we'll talk
yeah.
in a minute. I'm going to get your popcorn.
So we gave away about 400 bags of popcorn.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so both parents and kids, and lots of candy. We had a plinko game that they could play to win little prizes.
Fun.
So it's kind of that will be wearing that costume. Whereas like last year, I had some leggings and a little headband, and I was getting more confident. I was probably like at the time I was probably like a size 14, 16 or something. So, the weight loss was happening. But now that I'm in maintenance, I'm like, okay, now I can wear this like costume that's maybe a little more revealing. I do have, loose skin on my arms, but
Yes.
I feel like, hey, this is a process. And you had talked about, some people do choose to take a plastic surgery route, which is something I can't do right now, but it's something, to save up for. Some, insurance will cover certain procedures.
Hmm.
But when it comes to more of what they see is purely cosmetic, you're going to have to come up with the funds for that yourself.
Yeah.
So that is something, eventually. But when I saw my provider at my annual checkup a couple of weeks ago, it was basically like, hey, you'll probably, if you do decide to go through with skin removal and things, just based on your starting weight, you'll probably have about, 10 pounds or so of skin. And because sometimes you will opt to have a little bit of lipo because there's some stubborn,
Yeah.
skin. So that is something that if you're going through this season of your life where you're in this weight loss process, um, I feel like I don't judge people either way. If they decide to, just
Right.
like, I'll just deal with the loose skin. I don't care to they want the
Right.
everything done, and for women, one of the things you may notice in your as you're going through this process is your girls will lose sometimes you'll lose a cup size or more. So that's something it comes with the territory as you're dropping the weight, because you do have technically your chest area is for women, it is adipose tissue, it's fat tissue.
Yeah.
So that's to be expected.
Right.
Not that doesn't mean that it'll happen for everybody, but the majority of women do note that that is a change. And if you have that expectation in your head ahead of time, then when it does happen to you, it's not like a complete surprise.
Right. Before we wrap up, because I do have to leave here in about 10 minutes,
hmm
15 minutes. We have someone in the chat that just wants to know again how heavy you were, how much, were you, and then where you are now in your stats. Just curious.
Yes. So I started my highest weight when I started this was 254. And now I'm at a range for maintenance between 128 and 131. It's about where,
Yeah.
I tend to average per week.
Yeah. I
So
love it.
125 pounds is just kind of like what I say. That's a good, and that took me, about 21 months, something like that. And in next week, it'll be my 2 year Zepiversary. I think that's what
Love it.
some people call it, if that's the medication you've chosen to be on.
That's awesome.
But I am looking forward to seeing the future of what's available. My husband, he's kind of um, he used to jump out of planes for the military. So his
Mhm.
back, he's had a lot of
Mhm.
other health things. And tirzepatide, he was on a, Wegovy for a little bit, lost a little bit of weight, took a break, and then went when the VA approved for Zepbound, he switched over to that. And so he's lost a total of 50 pounds, and he kind of just stalled out there. That's kind of where his body plateaued at. And so um, women just the data is there that shows that women tend to be better responders on these medications. GLP-1s tend to, for some reason, women's the process that women go through with, they can have more success. Men have a little bit lower response level. So we're hoping that maybe when retatrutide or retatrutide, depending on how you like to say it, that comes to market when that FDA approval hopefully hits at the end of the year, early 2027. We'll see if the VA will add that to their formulary
Mhm.
and kind of seeing if that's an option. For anybody else who's listening, is there, and maybe you can plug this in, AJ, some of the people who you've maybe followed, whether it's YouTubers, TikTokers, podcast, any resources that you can, share. I started my very first, like, just getting on social media and just seeing like what's out there was On the Pen with Dave Knapp.
Mhm.
He's very much news based, so he talks more about the science, following the different pharmaceutical companies and what research and development is going on their end. So that's always very fascinating to follow him and get the latest and greatest. And he has some amazing obesity medicine specialists and people in this obesity medicine space come and are guests on his podcast. He does lives, I believe, Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays. That's on YouTube, TikTok,
Mhm.
and I don't know if he has any other channels. So that's one. TikTok, Mike with a Mission was kind of where I started
Mhm.
with kind of hearing him, and then meeting a lot of other TikTokers, including AJ, finding some cool people. There's a couple different doctors who did show up to OAC who have podcasts as well, that are great. So you just, if you, whatever phone you have or whatever app you use to listen to podcasts, type in obesity medicine and you'll probably see some providers with Dr. Mathia Rente is one, Dr. Nadolsky, he and his brother, who's an endocrinologist. They have the Docs Who Lift. So they
Mhm.
talk about, putting the health benefits of weight loss, along with movement. And they have, I believe, is Gianna, does she
Gianna,
work,
no,
that
you're
she's
talking
with,
about Dr. Nadolsky, right? You're talking about the him and
yeah.
his brother.
Mhm.
No, Gianna doesn't work for Vineyard. Is that what you're
Okay.
asking?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought maybe she did,
No,
but I
that's
wasn't quite sure.
Summer, the dietitian.
Summer, thank you. I
Yeah.
was like, I knew there was somebody at OAC who worked,
Yeah.
with that provider, but I was like, who was that?
Right.
Yeah, so
So they're
it
all in
is,
here as well. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So, get connected. And AG, do you have any other suggestions of resources?
No, I think those are all great off the top of my head. But that's the best thing to do here, right? Get on it if you're on the social media platform here. Like let's connect with real people that know and educate themselves and have the knowledge and stuff. It's important because social media can be kind of a crazy place. But Gianna works with Nourish, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what, yeah. Okay. I see. Yeah. Yeah, there was some amazing people at OAC and, you can always follow the OAC. They have a
yeah.
Facebook page and I think they also are here on
They're here on
TikTok and
TikTok. Yep.
yeah, they have, a
Instagram too.
website. They have a website that has some for the, from the patient side, being able to be an advocate. I don't think I'm ready to like be like more on the political advocacy, like going to the Hill and,
Right, right.
that's Mike's wheelhouse.
Yeah, I give
Certain
that to
people.
people that can do that well. I'm more like
Yes.
patient centered, like
Yeah.
for the common folk. That's what I feel.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So I feel like it's definitely one of those things I want to just advocate for, people to access this for their health. And one of the things that kind of just real quick, I know you got to go.
it's okay.
One of the things that we tend to see on social media a lot is people doing the blame and shame game, But then there's kind of like there's a pendulum on the other side where people are really talking about kind of the body positivity movement. And that can also be, there are aspects of that that can also be very dangerous, because
Yeah.
I thought for many years in my 20s and 30s that, oh, I'm just in a bigger body. I'm still beautiful the way I am, until it catches up with you, until there's health concerns. And you don't know when that is. You're almost kind of like a ticking
Yeah.
time bomb
Yeah.
with your health. And it's data. It's not to be rude. It's not to be, you can
Right.
say, well, I can be big and healthy at the same time to a certain point, because there's going
Yeah.
to come a day where it's the data's there. Um,
Well, I
it
mean,
is a high risk factor.
we love ourselves, right? We got to love ourselves at any size, but there comes a point where it's going to be detrimental for our health. And then how much can you love yourself at 400 pounds, really, if you're not
Correct.
really taking care of yourself? So I agree with you. There's that spectrum that can be really not great on both sides, right? Body positivity. Okay, cool. Yeah, I love myself. Yeah, but you need to take care of yourself. By loving yourself, you need to treat yourself. You need to treat, your disease. We
Yeah.
can
And
get into that.
she was some type of a health care provider. I'm not exactly sure what, but she was one of the things that you also have to, as you're seeing, with a grain of salt,
Mhm.
take everything that people say. But there are a lot of people don't realize, and I made a comment on, her video, just saying, hey, you're a social media influencer. If you're also in the healthcare space, she's like, well, I'm not a social media influencer. I'm like, yes, you are. You literally have a video that people are commenting on. You're selling a product. So she has clients where she does what she calls weight neutral coaching or something like that. You
Mhm.
have a responsibility, as when you get online and you're sharing these videos and you're promoting your business and doing things,
Yeah.
you have a responsibility,
You're
and
influencing.
you're
Yeah.
influencing people. And she was basically anti GLP-1. And I was just shocked. I'm like, we're talking about people's health here. Like, shouldn't you be neutral in how people choose to address their health, which is, maybe some people really do need the medication. And why are you discouraging? And she was saying, well, everybody regains with, and I was like, yes, because the numbers that you were getting was from a clinical trial. Everybody comes off the medication at the end of the
Yeah.
trial because it hasn't been FDA approved yet, because they're part of the trial. So
Yeah.
unless they get a compassionate care exception where the pharmaceutical company, usually a provider or somebody on the trial team will advocate for them, for the pharmaceutical company to continue providing that medication to just that patient,
Hmm.
until it gets FDA cleared to get on what everybody has access to on the market.
Right.
You have to come off of it. But we know that right, obesity is a disease. If you stop the
Yeah.
treatment, it's going
And
to come
that's the
back.
whole unfortunate point. They're not seeing it that way. And so we
And it
have
was
to
so
keep,
frustrating to
yeah.
witness that. I'm like,
Yeah.
girl, you're saying you're a healthcare person, and then you're saying this. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so really have that discernment when you're online. Follow creators that are being honest with you. If they're trying to sell you some like fitness or nutrition program, heed with caution. Like,
Right.
there's money to be made in this space, and people will take advantage of your fears and
Right.
whatever. But listen to people like AJ. She's, there's no pressure to purchase, anything. She's just giving you solid advice, as somebody who's experienced, living with the disease of obesity. Just there's a lot out there, and there's a lot of misinformation. So follow
Yeah.
the TikTok creators that are, going to give it to you straight.
Right.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So as I have to wind up, unfortunately, I have a few other questions I want to give to you. So in your expertise and your lived experience, what can you do to help someone? So if someone is really struggling right now, right? Whether it's trying to see if this medication is right for them, or they feel like they're struggling right now, being treated, what do you have to say to them? What advice can you give them? What help can you say, real quick?
Sure. If you don't have a provider that's giving you good information, or they're not helpful, think about switching providers. Find somebody who is. It's harder to find somebody who is obesity medicine specialist, meaning they're board certified.
Hmm.
There's just not as many of them. And my sister hopefully she's going to start working on that, maybe become board certified herself. But you can go to, I think it's the Obesity Medicine Society. They have a search tool where you can see if there are any providers in your area that have that board certification.
Love it.
You want somebody who's going to give you the best guidance as you're going through the process with the medication. Um, but really, you want to avoid overdosing yourself if you're using a compound, some of those things, to really understand what you're putting in your body and the side effects. um, Hydration, protein intake, healthy deficit, and movement, those are like kind of the four pillars of what you need to be making sure is like on your checklist. And then the fifth, I would say, probably sleep, getting good sleep. But if you have any like hesitance or worries, go to your provider. Don't wait until it's too late where you're literally have, so severely like constipated where you're then having impacted bowels and you're going to the ER. Don't let it get to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. One last question. Uh, what do you hope people listening to your story today takes away? Take away from it? What do you want to give to someone?
If you haven't started or you just started, I want you to be encouraged that stay the course, even if it feels like you're not losing fast. Do not compare yourself to other people who are on, wherever they are in their journey. Your only competition is yourself. You want to be better than you were the day before. So, your pace is your pace. If you feel like you're outside of that parameters of a 0.5 to 2 pounds a week, talk to your provider. Knowledge is power, and just you starting is that being brave and walking into your doctor's office. I felt like that was the hardest step, asking for help. And if you've done that step, that's huge. Just be encouraged to keep going, stay the course. If you need tracking apps or whatever, some of those smaller tools to help you. If you decide that Whole Foods is a lot to prep, but you can do some protein bars. There's no judgment from me. Do what works for you. What works for me may not work for the next person. And
Right.
just take that to heart that you're doing great. You took the big step just to get started.
Love it. Thank you, Poppy, so much. Thank you, Clara. I know that's your government name. Hopefully you're okay with that.
Government
Uh,
names.
okay, whoopsie doopsie. So anyway, thank you guys. I'm gonna let you down in the chat because I have to wind up here in a minute, but thank you so much for coming up and sharing.
Thank you. And how do I exit?
I'll do it for you.
Perfect.
All right,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.